Good afternoon, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone's having a great afternoon. I am so lucky to be joined like I am every Monday and Wednesday at noon with Agnieszka Wood, our trading mindset coach here at Quasar Markets, the person to bring some sanity to our crazy days. Agnieszka, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Howard?
I'm doing well. I mean, I wish the market would continue up, but seems to be
So far, so good. So far, so good, right? It seems
yeah,
pretty
but is it
strong.
sustainable is I guess the question that we're all
Yeah.
looking at now. But I will tell you more and more of the, contributors to Quasar Markets that we've had on today. Steve called the bottom being in sort of yesterday, the day before. We're seeing more and more contributors that are saying sort of the same thing that, whether they're willing to call the bottom, what they are all sort of subscribing to is if you are looking to start long-term positions in the Mag 7 and some of these other high flying names, now would be a time to start deploying some, money into that.
Yeah. I have to say, 2 days ago, I have started some long positions myself. Even if it's a dead cat bounce, it is
Right.
what it is, but the risk reward was just too good not to take it.
Absolutely. And that's what I think we're finally, and what I'm hearing again from, like we're saying, from people that are educated traders that have been in the market for a long time, that are professionals. We sort of understand that this capitulation of the last 2 days was the retailers getting pushed out. I don't know if you saw JP Morgan was on TV the other day, and they made it clear this isn't us that's moving the market. We're not the ones selling right now. They haven't even accumulated their position, so to speak. And what I mean by
Right.
that for our viewers that don't know is, hedge funds, private equities, banks, they don't just take all of their money in January 1 and say, here you go, it's all in the market. They do this over a gradual time that usually takes the first 6 to 7, 8 months of the year to establish their full positions. And what they're saying is they're not the ones that are selling because they haven't even established. So I just
Right.
want to let our viewers know there. Hey, we've got a pretty cool thing I know I want to put across the bottom here is you are going to announce some pretty cool things going on and extend an offer
Yeah.
to your network of followers, and
Right.
you're letting us know first here. So this is a big one of those red flags. Bing, 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 bing. Make sure you do what you see here on the screen. Agnieszka has a free habit tracker. Um, if you go up and sign up for that today or tomorrow, you will get an offer in your email on Friday
Right.
that's going to give you some advantages to her programs that aren't available to the public. So we
Right.
thank you so much for sharing that. I'm actually going to bring up your web page now so people know where they'd
Yes.
sort of find this. That's going to put you here. From there, go to the work with me.
Well, actually, for the
Oh,
habit tracker, you can scroll down and get the habit
that's
tracker
right.
first on this page. So if you go, you can
Yeah, I
get a
apologize.
habit tracker from the, yeah. So here you get
Right.
your habit tracker, or in fact, any of these will get you on my email list. So whatever you do, just click on, except for the podcast, take the habit tracker or the consistency guide, and this way
I
you will be on
suggest you
my
do
list.
all three of these. I do them all. I use them all. I find them to be great. I'm not saying that as an outsider. I'm saying as someone that's used these. That wasn't, and as I've pointed out, the one that she recommended that Agnieszka just talked about, the habit tracker is one for me that not only helped my trading, which the other two sort of focus more on my trading. This one for me, while it's based around trading, helped me with a work-life balance and sort of learning to shut things off and prepare my day correctly in less time to have a more productive day. So
Yes.
that's what I
So
would
once you
say.
get that, you can then go to work with me, and you will not have to do that because I will send you an email. But basically, Steve, if you, Steve, why did I call you Steve?
Because you
I
think
guess
about,
because we talked about Steve
yeah,
just before. So if you go to work with me, Howard, and then you click there, and then you will see the journey. So the trading mindset mastery journey, on the left, self-paced program. So
yeah,
this is, I call it first aid, because this is a program that you can start with if you are struggling with emotions, with
right,
emotions standing in your way to your consistent trading to following your plan, make you frustrated because you are making impulsive decisions. This is really like the first step to start learning how to master your triggers, how to regulate your emotions, how to withstand the pressures from the market. And this is the offer that I will be making. You can find more information under that. There is no offer yet, but I will be sending it only through email. If you do it yourself, you get a lot of value for money. You get the online platform access with all the course material, with workbook, with all the videos, and a lot of tools that I give you in the Trader's Toolkit, plus additional masterclass that will help you align your strategy with what you want to achieve as a trader.
Right.
And in
Absolutely.
addition, as a special offer, what I give you is access to my 1 month free access to my Discord membership, which will give you additional masterclass, additional Q&A, live Q&A session, and the access to my chat, where you can meet also other traders, and you can ask your questions while you're going through the program and get live answer, basically.
Absolutely. And that's what's the key, is the community that you're building. And I know that's why you're offering this, because you want to continue to build that community and find people that are like yourself, myself, and then the traders in your program already that want to become financially stable by investing. And sometimes we get in our own way. You might have a trading system, but what I'm hearing more and more, and we've talked about this, we talked to some folks that were former hedge fund guys at JP Morgan, for Stephen Cohen, the billionaire that owns the Mets and many other things. And they all talked about how there are staff psychologists on all of those trading floors to help people with the problems, because, you see it. And what I'm going to warn people too is, I had a trader today that's, I know, having some problems with their trading in general. And they took a chance yesterday and they bought long some Tesla calls because, they heard a couple of people like Steve beating the drum saying it's time to buy. And they made a lot of money this morning. They now have sort of a false sense of security that, no, I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh no, and you've talked about this. Sometimes this is the worst thing that can happen, right? Because they hit a lotto play that really was more based upon luck than it was on a plan.
Yeah, it's not it's really, it's not just about those times when things are going well, right? When you are, let's say, a long trader and the market keeps going up and there is no tomorrow and everything is running, you might get the feeling you are a fantastic trader and you don't need any help.
Right.
But there will be time when this is not going to be the case, because market is changing all the time. And then you will actually get really tested, and then how will you handle yourself at that moment? So it is really building and I have these discussions a lot of times with traders. They come to me and they say, I wish I have come to you when things were going well, so that I could keep going well and not fall into that black hole and now trying to grind trying to get out of there, because it's much harder when you are in there to see the light.
And I would also point out, exactly, and you don't have to wait to fall. I found you while I was still exactly like you're saying. I haven't burnt out yet. I hadn't gone through my portfolio. Right. I have been a successful trader, but what you were able to bring to me was more balance in that, and also a better approach that allowed me to become a better trader, because I figured out what habits helped me have successful days, what things, by doing a little bit of journaling, but, telling me what I was doing correctly on volatile days, maybe, or what I was doing incorrectly that day that I could then learn from. So it's just little simple tips, even for those of us that are successful. You don't think that you don't need this.
It's about building solid foundation. And then even when you have that solid foundation, it's about maintenance. And it's so easy to fall back into your old patterns if you have not worked on changing those patterns. And you mentioned you had someone on the show from the neuroscience. So maybe he even mentioned, about the neural connections that we have in our brain that are connecting everything that you do, and that's why we repeat those habits. So you have those neural connections there, and that tell you, okay, if this is the trigger, this is what I'm doing, and we keep repeating the same thing. So in order to be able to sustain your performance over the long time, you have to have it sort of burned into your brain, those habits, the good trading habits. So if you are lucky and you made some money and maybe even you had a great month or two, do you really have the solid foundation? Because how quickly do you think you will fall back into the old patterns?
Right, without a doubt. And, it's also about techniques that you teach and also sort of philosophies, I guess they'd be, because the other one that, like you just said, we had Anne Marie on, and she also uses the Neuralinks and has a degree in it, and was basically a biologist and working in like research science of that before she became a trader, and talked about the react versus response, and that you want to respond after, don't react. You gotta let things come in and think. And she talked about that first moment, and in the first moment your idea is to react, and what you need to do is take it in and respond. And I was like, thought I was talking to you again, because it was very much the same thing, but it's very true. And something that I hadn't thought about until you brought it up to me is that's what's really important, is even when things are the most turmoil, you got to slow it down. And what I remember, when we were talking about it, I brought up sports and how they'll talk sometimes about, for quarterbacks, how the game slows down. Yeah. And that's what happened. You take a deep breath, you think about what happened, and then you start to formulate your plan from there, as opposed to just randomly hitting buttons as quick as you possibly can. And that's the big difference for some traders.
Yes. And we will always default to what we are used to. So just take, for example, New Year's resolutions, right? Most people fall back into their old habits, even when they have the best intention. After a few weeks of having a resolution, they just fall back into the old, because changing something on a behavioral level is not sustainable. You can force yourself to do something just for a certain period, but then you fall back into the old. So the change on a deeper level is necessary in order to sustain the change. And speaking of New Year's resolutions, in fact, right now, when the spring is coming, is the best moment, even much better than the new year, is better moment to make your resolutions. And the reason for it is that this is much more natural, considering the cycles of nature, your natural rhythm. This is when everything comes to life in the spring. In the winter, it's very forceful, right? In the winter, all you want is to get out of the blanket and fall asleep.
Right.
The only reason why we do it with the new year is that we have the sense of new beginning, and it's artificial. It has nothing to do with nature, with our natural cycles. So if you want to achieve something, if you say, okay, this is something I tried new year and didn't work, now it's really the best moment to take that resolution and then start taking action, because you will have much different energy, much more power behind it from a natural perspective to actually stick to your resolution.
That makes all the sense in the world, and it is the time. It was funny because I had seen your blog post on that and was going to bring it up, but I was like, well, are we too far away? And as you pointed out, no, it is actually the time to do it. And it makes sense because, I know I made some that I resolutions that I never even got a start on, so to speak. Some I've done pretty well with, some I've, abandoned, but there were a few that I didn't even get started on. So now maybe is the time to sort of take a step back and say, now, like you said, because it is tough in the middle of winter when everything's cold and it's there. Plus, like I said, I probably made too many at one time.
Yeah, that's, for ambitious people, that's the bad side of it. But now, like, to just feel how spring makes you feel when you see the new flowers coming up, when you see the leaves coming, on the trees, and the morning sun. It's like there is something that's waking up in us, right? We get that new sense of there's a lot. That's the time when a lot of people fall in love, right? Because this energy of renewal and power comes to life. So by the time that you get into the winter, you will have enough momentum to push you through the winter with some habits that you have already built starting now.
That makes
And
sense.
yeah,
Absolutely. They say it takes like 12 weeks, right, or so for habits to become,
yeah,
ingrained.
right.
So that would get you through the summer. That's a great. I hadn't thought about that at all. And like I said, I'd already written mine off that I hadn't done. So now I got to pull
You
that
have a
piece of paper
chance,
out of the garbage and give it a chance,
right?
and get ready for it for the year. That does
Yeah.
make a lot of sense for sure. Um,
And the great way to do that is start with the end in mind. So
okay.
start thinking about what is it that I want to achieve, and how, like I talked about it with my students this morning. Going to the gym seems to be the thing that people struggle a lot with,
Yeah.
right? Oh God, I have to work out.
That would be
But
the
the
one that
first,
I didn't even start yet. So
so try to see it in a different way, right? Feel and think about that feeling that you have after you went to the gym. Think about all the advantages and the reasons why do you even want to go to the gym, because there is a lot of good things about it that will give you that feeling of, like, and I want to be fit because I want to do all these great things that a lot of people cannot even do, right? I want to stay, I want to have that feeling after I
right.
went to the gym, that feels that's always good. Going there is the process, but think about that end result. And then when you talk to yourself about going to the gym, do not use the word I have to go to the gym, because just by saying that, I don't feel like
Negative.
going to the gym.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because
Like
it's
if
like your
I
mother
have
told
to do
you.
something,
Yeah.
I immediately feel like, no, I don't have to. I don't have to do anything.
I don't think people realize that how we talk to ourselves can be so important, right?
Right. It is very important, because this is how we talk ourselves into things, whether it's in life or in trading, and how we talk ourselves out of things. And a lot of times it's, like when I talk with traders about, for example, they say, yes, and I'm getting out too early out of the trade. Okay, not why do you do that? Because if they knew why, they would probably know how to fix it. But how do you talk yourself out of the trade? Become aware of that internal dialogue that you have with yourself, because there is a conversation going on where
Right.
you are convincing yourself one or the other way what is going to happen. And a lot of times, based on that conversation, I can tell you that your decisions are absolutely rational. They
Yeah.
seem irrational to you seeing the end result, because this is not what was in your plan, it's not what you want. But if I tell myself, this thing is turning around, it's not going to go higher, I'm going to lose my profit, I guarantee you I'm going to get out too.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you, right? You just told yourself all the reasons why you should.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. We
becoming aware of that is really key, how you talk to yourself and how you talk yourself into not going to the gym.
Yeah, I don't even I don't even think it comes up anymore. I think we stopped talking to each other about it. So that's
I
my problem.
guarantee you there is a dialogue. There is definitely
There
the
is.
dialogue, even
There
if it's like,
definitely is.
I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, that's sort of what it is now. I'm in that, my wife says I have selective hearing as it is, so I've turned my selective hearing even onto myself. But
Yes.
yeah, I
So
mean that, and we see that with trading all the time. And as you said, is if you make the decision for all the right reasons, and it just didn't come out the right outcome,
right.
you can't always use the rear view mirror to look at everything, so to speak. And a lot of times trader says, like you said, I got out too early. Well, what happened? And then they explain it. You say, no, you really didn't, because you were looking at RSI or momentum or this indicator or that, or this, and that's what it was telling you. So you did what you did. Now the market
Right.
doesn't have to listen to what it's did, and it went the other way. So, but you did the right thing, and you've said that. And I do that when I do entries that go wrong. Did I do the things right when you look at it? And, usually 90% of the time, I'm happy to say to myself, I made the right decision at that time. It just didn't play out the way I wanted it to play out, or I thought it would. And I had my plan for how to exit it at that point.
Right. And, another thing to take into account is that it's really not about being right or wrong. It's about being in the right time at the right moment, right? At the right place. So when you are exiting a trade, that decision that you are taking might be right now, but then in another trade, it might not be right. It's like you cannot really have that discussion with yourself. Is it the right? Am I right? Because you will never know until you take the decision. So what you can look at when you look at the chart, you can look and say, is this the ideal timing for me to get into this trade or to get out of this trade? And start judging it based on, is it the right timing? Because if you look at the chart, it's really all about timing, right? It's really about, like, a lot of times we say to ourselves, if I just had waited a few seconds. Right?
Oh yeah, it's all that. Well, and that's the perfect example as to why I think so many, of the contributors here are saying it's time to start nibbling, because we know the market isn't going to it's undervalued now. Now, is today the day that it turns around and the rest of the world realizes it's undervalued and starts buying? We don't know that. But again, educators and people in the business and professionals are just saying, hey, it's sort of showing me all of the signs that it should show me that it is oversold at this point. And that's,
and this is a perfect moment to start journaling. Like, how do you feel right now when the market is down and when the world is ending and when all the headlines?
I think that's perfect, because one of the hardest things I think for retail traders to learn is when capitulation happens. And that's what we saw on Monday, was, in my personal opinion, sort of that capitulation of the retail trader. The people who had been down and hoping and hoping and hoping, and when Monday came and the market didn't turn and it continued to slide, they sort of gave up hope, and we saw it over Monday and Tuesday. And now, institutions don't do that. They sit at like we've talked about, they sit at the door, they take your tickets on the way out, they say, thank you for coming. And then when the stadium fills back up and you want a ticket, they scalp it back to you at a higher price.
Exactly. And that's exactly, so knowing yourself and how that feels, because it happens on a regular basis. If you have been trading for a longer while, you will see it. The news are getting bad, then they're getting worse, and the market tanks and tanks. And at some point, there is a level like that I feel the world is ending, right? Like, oh my God, it cannot be more negative. And that's the moment where I notice, like, okay, now I start feeling a certain that level. And that's when the capitulation happened. I'm like, oh, this is now the moment to go against that feeling, because everyone is running. I have to run the other way, because trading is about doing the opposite what your fight or flight response tells you.
Yeah, like you've almost said, you're like a first responder in this case. We're running
towards the fire instead of.
And I'd also mention, and I'd ask you this, because I know for me it's so much the case. On Monday, I wasn't all worked up. Like, it didn't. I knew what this was. I've seen it in the crypto world. I saw it in COVID. This was March of the start of COVID. You saw it and you said, okay, there my head was on fire and I thought the world was ending, because I was a beginner, a much more beginner trader at that point and hadn't lived through the fire, so to speak. And then when you saw that final exhaustion where everybody just sort of gave up, which is what I would sort of call that final capitulation. You almost see it. You hear the tenor in social media. People go from hopeful to I give up on it, and boom, that's when that hits. Now I know that, what, hey, now it's time to start fishing on the other side of the boat. Everybody is over here fishing. I'm going to see if I can catch something over here.
Yeah, I really like watching and noticing the trends with news, because that you will really see that on the headlines. It's like in a clock. Seriously, at some point it becomes actually really funny. I'm like, okay, now it's really bad. No, not this is not bad enough. It will get worse. and you really start seeing it, and then you will see that in the market reflecting. So once you have experienced it a few times, you are not panicking. This is like you are waiting for that moment. You are waiting for that opportunity. And it is a sort of becomes sort of a game, but not if you are so emotionally involved in it, you can see it because you're projecting yourself into the market, and then it becomes very personal. So all you do is kind of trying to scramble and manage yourself and, calm yourself down and mourn your losses and that kind of thing. So that then you can't really see what is really happening.
And a lot of times those people are too far in the market when it's and going the wrong way is part of the problem. So they don't have a trigger because it's almost like the Fed at 0% interest rates. I can only raise them. I can't make them go down.
Right. Yeah. So never really stay, in a position until that moment that you are at the pain point where you have to pull that oh shit handle while because normally when you do that, then you see this thing going the opposite way and you're like, oh, I wish I haven't done that. Right.
Yeah. It's what we see. It is. Yeah. Well, Agnieszka, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I appreciate it so much. Again, I'm going to tell everybody, please go. You want to sign up for her habit tracker or one of the 3 programs she has on her main page here, because they are going to help your trading without a doubt. They're going to teach you, again, how to settle yourself, how to take the time to process stuff and properly react to them or respond to them, not react. I always use the wrong word. And, and then from there, she has an offer that I know what's coming. She's already spilled it here, what's coming. You want to get that because I can tell you once you start talking to Agnieszka through her Discord, you're not going to want to stop because she's going to give you the right advice and be able to talk you through these times because they are volatile. There is no doubt that we are going to see more of this. The tweet analysis is more important than technical analysis right now. And we've seen it, time after time. I'm sure we're going to see some tweets out of the White House today that could change the market. So we got to keep our head on a swivel. Agnieszka, any last words you have for us today?
Mind your mind, really mind your mind, because that's a powerful tool. And if you know how to use it, you're golden. And when you join my Discord, this is a fully mind related Discord. So I don't give any tips what to trade. We don't really talk about, charts too much because sometimes, traders that are in there want to share their plan. But in general, this is mindset related chat room, which really gets you the support that you need. Sometimes just by pulling you away at the right time
from the market. Yeah, we all need that. We all need that for sure. So thank you so much, Agnieszka.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.